We're going to approach this subject from both a tantric, yoga tantra, and also yogic Vedantic points of view. And I should probably explain those two words. Of course, the word yoga comes from the word yog, which means to yoke together, to yoke the finite to the infinite, to yoke man to its maker. When I say man, I mean generic man, not gender man, generic. the human condition to the divine condition, the limited condition to the limitless condition. That's yoga. The tantric point of view is a yogic view that looks at the elements of life, whether it's a chair or a table, a tree, a flower, a clod of earth, elements of life, and ask the question, where is the divine inherent? It's the ability to sense the divine inherent in the elements of life. That's the tantric point of view. So it sees elements. This. The Vedantic, the yoga Vedanta, is a different perspective. Yoga Vedanta makes the grand statement that all of this is an illusion, all of this is a grand, dramatic dream, and to be aware of the absolute oneness of things. So you can say that the tantric view, if you have a prism, when all the light was split up, that's the tantric point of view. Prior to the light being split up was the Vedantic point of view. See? It was all one white light, and then it broke up into pieces, and that's the tantric. The one white light, the primary, is the Vedantic point of view. They're both correct. They're both absolutely correct. And it's very useful to understand both points of view, and to utilize it in your practice. Short of studying yoga in depth, you're not going to really acquire this material, and you'll sort of be led into the common human neurosis. You have to understand, well, there's two things to understand. One, to get birthed onto this planet, you have to be a little bit nuts. You know? You didn't get here because you were fully well. You know? You know?
Makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, you know, who would take a birth where there's lions and tigers and bears, you know, metaphorically? You know, whether it's lions and tigers and bears in your office or in your home life or on the streets, you know, who would volunteer for that? So there was a little bit of misperspective getting down here. But if we can acquire these various points of view, we can acquire deeper vision and wholer experience. The experience is more whole. And when I say whole, I'm talking about wellness, healthy, you know, a vision that heals you. It's our fractured vision that gives us a lot of trouble. Our fractured vision gives us a lot of unknown. And inherent in the unknown is this productive or is this non-productive? Does this have teeth or is this, benevolent? Unknown. We don't know. Hence, more angst in life. The more we don't know, the more angst we have. That's why we're all buying insurance and buying bigger and bigger cars to protect ourselves and, putting all kinds of lights around our house. Why? The unknown. The unknown, we don't know if it's good, we don't know if it's a problem. Angst. It's that fractured vision that gives us difficulty. More conscious and unconscious. And don't underrate your unconscious. It's a vast, vast storehouse of unexamined stuff. And often unexamined fears, that are affecting you a lot. Where do you think your personality came from? It just didn't happen. It's a composite of your experiences, known and unknown. It's a composite of your experiences, known and unknown. So, by learning to involve yourself in some simplicity activities, and silent activities, you get a different means of experiencing the world, a different way of experiencing the world. Right now we're sort of experiencing the world, stumbling forward from the unknown to the unknown to the unknown. There's no common thread of experience that keeps you peaceful, keeps you happy, keeps you loving. There's no thread. When we step out the door, we don't know what the next circumstance is going to be. We have no idea. Because of that, there's a hidden angst. Whether we're actively aware of it or not, there's a hidden angst. I was at a coffee shop a few years ago, and the coffee shop was very busy. And people were lining up to get their coffees. And a young professional girl from UC Berkeley, maybe she's 32 or so, comes in, and I was sitting with two Dharma friends. And she comes in and gets her coffee. And she's just 2 blocks from UC Berkeley, so she's running back. She was on her break. And just as she ran out the door, she literally got hit by a massive truck, a cement truck. I mean, you couldn't get hit with a heavier vehicle than a cement truck. So in 1 second, she's gone. This is life. We all understand this happens. When we get in our car, are we sure we're getting home? In the back of our mind, we don't know. We have no idea. So there's that angst there. If we can start to build up a body of practices, let's actually start with simplicity first before we go to be simple, be still. If we can start to build up a body of practices that deals with simplicity, what we are doing actually is building up a body of practices that acquaints us to beauty, to the inherent beauty in life. It's sort of like having a cushion. So instead of just having angst and having complexity, we can actually start to build a body of sensitive experience. In all of yoga study, you're constantly trying to refine your senses. You want to see more. You want to be aware of more. The greater the awareness you have, it means the less darkness there is, the less fear there is, less angst there is. Because your awareness is grander, deeper. So, there's a communion of awareness and beauty. Those two things really do come together. Just like if you and I are standing in front of a dark cave and we have just a candle to get through it, not a whole lot of awareness, very little awareness, and a whole lot of angst. You know. Now, let's say we get this big, massive flashlight. I mean, something that's like lights up the town, and say, let's go through the cave now. Instead of angst, there's interest. And we say, oh, there's stalactites here, and there's geometric forms there, and there's a pool of water running here. All of a sudden, it becomes interesting and beautiful. You know, my God, there's microfish living in this cave. You know? And look at the geological formations. All of a sudden, it moved from angst to interest and beauty. It's like, wow. See? So we have to train our senses to become more and more aware. No one tells you to do this. You know, they tell you get to work at 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock, so you're just rushing. You know, we're not taking the time to enhance our senses. So we take, you know, our sense of sight, our sense of taste, our sense of smell, our sense of hearing, our sense of touch, and we learn to concentrate on each sense, one at a time. Don't do them all at once, it's too much. It's sensory overload. To be able to experience an inherent beauty that's present, but we're persistently unaware of it because we're preoccupied. We're occupied with complexity. So we're running, and we miss all of these different wonders that are going on. So even if you take an hour or a half hour just to walk through your neighborhood, or even if you want to go to the water or go to the forest, but you don't have to do that. Just walk to the neighborhood and start to exercise each individual sense. You know, take one sense at a time. You know, you can do it like 1 week this sense, the next week the next sense. You know, sometimes people say to me, I'll say something about something that's going on, and it's simply because I could taste it in the air. You know, you can taste the plants and the fragrances and stuff. You can taste it. But it's because you took time to pay attention. So this awareness has a whole lot of inherent beauty in it. You say, okay, I'm going to walk from this block to that block, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to listen. Just listen. You put your eyes down, defocus them, and walk. I'm just going to listen. It's a whole different experience. The key is to get into the habit of truly utilizing your senses. You know, you will acquire a bouquet of beautiful experiences that are inherently healing. You know, all these senses that we have are also there not only for survival but for beauty. You know, that is inherently part of the human condition, is beauty. But because of our complexity, and no one told us to stay still and pay attention, we're missing it. We're missing it. Didn't cost you any money. You know, you can have a guy that has, you know, $1 million house and fancy car, and not 1/100th of as happy as you could be. You know? Because he's busy running and protecting his millions. So we have, all of life is about the body of habits that we develop. You know, you'll be miserable or happy based on the body of habits that you've developed. You'll live and die by your habits. So in the yogic practice of simplicity, it's taking the time to truly exercise your senses, you know. And one should not be casual about it, saying, okay, I'm going to just work on taste this whole week. So it means, instead of gulping down your lunch, you know, cut your lunch in half so that you have some time, and then just eat really, really slowly, you know. I'm gonna chew 15 or 20 times for each mouthful, and I'm just going to pay attention to what I'm eating. Cut the portion in half because you won't have the time. You know, you have to be really practical. And so over time, you build up a body of habits that slow you down, increase your awareness, and increase your inherent experience of beauty in the world. You could ask yourself the question that if all of this creation is a product of the divine, where's the ugly? See? If all of this creation is a product of the divine, where's the ugly? See? The nature of ugly came out of your head, your creation. See? So let's look at the issue of ugly. There's some creepy crawly bug or something, you know, or maybe you have afraid of spiders or something like that. Whatever creepy crawly thing that you consider is ugly. Ugly is really an unexamined thought, you know. So let's say a spider. They've got 8 eyes and all this kind of stuff in there. Got 8 legs, and no one wants to wake up with one crawling on it, you know. But so if we look at it, I mean, from one spider to the other spider, those 2 spiders said, "Hey, you're ugly." You know, no bird ever said to a spider, "Hey, you're ugly." It's the humans that say that. So why is that? So if we look at that notion of ugly, ugly means unfamiliar. See? Unfamiliar. That's really what it means. I don't know you. I don't know what you are. You know, your features are unfamiliar to me. See? That's really what ugly is. Ugly is lack of familiarity. Like you can say, I saw on the television the other day, they had some noble soldiers who were horrifically burned in some fires. And your first expression is, oh my God, this is terrible, because their faces are just completely destroyed. So we think hiddenly ugly. But then as you're listening to them speak, oh, their humanity is there, their kindness is there, the desire for the family is there, and all of a sudden the ugly is fading away. And then it becomes just a person talking about his experience and his family and his life and what they want to do with it. And then all of a sudden, where's the ugly? The first moment we saw, oh my God, that's horrific, ugly. You know, the guy's ears are gone and the face is melted, and, you know, pretty difficult situation. But, you know, inside of 5 to 10 minutes, you were no longer experiencing ugly. See? You're experiencing just humanity. See? So ugly means just the unfamiliar. So even with just a simple understanding of that, and you start to apply it to the world, where's the ugly? What we perceived as ugly was simply what was maybe unfamiliar, or when we say more ugly, profoundly unfamiliar. See? But if we can sort of put our judgment, which is our creation, our judgment is based on our frame of reference. which is different from everybody. That's why we perceive, every 10 people perceive the same thing completely differently. Yes, ma'am.
I came this morning a little bit upset and hurt because on TV there was one of these parents that lost their children. And so I was wondering how you deal with that type of ugly. How do you...
Yeah. Yeah, this is the mass shooting that just occurred for these children. This is just the disease inherent in man and in society. You know, this is a psychic explosion of profound frustration. See? The more you are out of communion with life, the more desperate and destructive an action can be. So this poor boy, 20 some odd years old, who harmed these children and adults, was out of connection. You know, you can only, you know, no one says, "Oh, I want to crush the flower." See? The only way you can crush the flower is if you're out of communion with the flower. See? Otherwise, you only seek to nurture it, support it, honor it, let it be. So, with this type of event, there's a lack of communion. That lack of communion is based on a lack of awareness. That lack of awareness means lack of insight. See? Lack of insight. So that poor fellow was in his own, he was living in his own nightmare and acting out of his own nightmare. And that's because of a complete loss of communion. What we're talking about is an enhancement of communion by slowing down and becoming aware of what's there. You know, we're actually living in a garden of beauty, and we're not even really aware of it. And I mean, a place like Berkeley, California is very beautiful, but I'm even saying any highly metropolitan city, if you slow down and pay attention, there is infinite beauty inherent. It's there. Well, one day I was sitting in the post office in big long lines, so we had to sit there for like an hour and a half waiting. So I decided just to pay attention to what was going on around me. So I started looking at the walls. And first you see what's obvious. But as you pay attention, you start to see they had some granite, and they had some bricks and such. But all of a sudden I started to notice there were like really beautiful, interesting patterns in these bricks, you know, and the color and the tone, but there was this really interesting patterns that I had never paid attention to before, and it's only because I was sitting there and I had so much time on my hands that I said, okay, let me pay attention. So I was looking at tone, I was looking at pattern, I was looking at the differential of qualities of texture. So all of a sudden, that hour and a half or something like that I had to wait became extremely entertaining to me. I mean, I was having a sort of a banquet of fun, you know, just by paying attention. I started to look at the floor to see, oh, look at this, you know. It's all there. It's just that we're simply not paying attention, you know. So it's important to learn to try to see what is present, or try to experience what is present, and then the skill of learning to be joyfully neutral. Joyfully neutral. Sometimes, like if you're running around in India, there's everything present if you're utilizing your senses. Some of it's these spices and floral. And then there's every kind of monkey dung, cow dung, goat dung, you know. It's just all in the environment. And it's very easy, to become very judgmental. Oh, that beautiful fragrant flower. And what's this monkey dung doing here?
It's eating the flower.
Yeah. This giant cow patty or bull patty. They're not little, they're substantive. But if you can just pay attention and learn to become a little bit still inside and acquire a little bit of neutrality, hey, it's not bad at all. You're like sort of surprised. And then you're looking at this pile of dung and saying, you know what, it's sort of glistening, it's sort of pretty. You actually start thinking, this is sort of pretty, because it's sort of glistening, It's only because you took the time. If our first reference was, ugh, let me go over there. But, if you sort of take the time, you can acquire sort of a joyful neutrality. And then you start realizing, you know what? That pile of dung there is feeding all kinds of creatures. And eventually that pile of dung is going to become earth. And all kinds of flowers and all kinds of creatures are going to be supported by that. It was only our first impression that was, ugh, away. Let me leave that alone and go someplace else. But if we acquired a little bit of joyful neutrality, we can see that that pile of dung is inherently beautiful and is inherently in a state of transformation. Maybe a few days ago it was grass and leaves. Now today it's a cow patty. Tomorrow it's going to be earth. And in the future it'll be the body of a plant again. See? So all of a sudden the context changes. See, this is seeing deeply. Our first response, was our first response really correct? Not really. It was an uninformed reaction. It was an uninformed reaction. There was no being still enough, being present enough, and looking into the nature of it to see that there's a process. There's a whole process there. That is the process of life. The same process that dung patty is going to go through. Do you think there's any difference between the elements of that dung patty and the elements of our body? Where's the difference? So if you were revolted by that dung patty, why weren't you revolted by this pile of clay? There's no difference in its process, in our process. None at all. So, by first learning to be simple, and then learning to be still, in stillness, we get a chance to examine our unexamined attitudes. See? If we're just, ugh, that's unpleasant, and run away, was that really an examined response? No. And then we sort of live with that unexamined response, and we try to make it a fact. We call it a fact. It was ugly. It was unpleasant. Was it really? Or are you functioning on an unexamined, response? See? So we build up a body of experiences that we'll call unpleasant because we didn't have the simplicity and the simpleness and the stillness to examine it. See? Now all of those experiences are building up in your subconscious mind. So where's the real dung patty? Can you imagine the load of rubbish you have built up in your subconscious? See? Fortunately, it's all dissolvable. It's all volatile. So, literally in a moment, 1,000 unexamined, unpleasant notions can be destroyed in a moment. Just like in a moment, 1,000 years of darkness in a cave can be destroyed by lighting a torch. In one moment, it's all gone. Thank God. So we can have 10,000 pounds of unexamined rubbish that we created, but it can be, in a moment, destroyed. The destruction of those unexamined notions gives us freedom. Emotional freedom, psychological freedom, physical freedom. And inherent, you cannot separate freedom from joy. They will inherently go together. Both freedom and joy are never separate. They're never separate. They're tied together. So if you can free yourself from these various angsts, there's an inherent joy. Inherent joy. It becomes your disposition. But that disposition came because you took the time to be simple. See? Just to try to see the elements. Require a neutral joy. A little neutrality, a little real observation. And working with each sense. Sometimes just listen. Now, someone will say, oh, you're teaching me to do something boring. Boring is just an idea itself. Boring is a notion itself. It's an idea. See? That idea rarely has substance. It's like someone saying, oh, that fellow is sitting still meditating. How boring. That's really a ridiculous statement. And they don't really realize it's ridiculous. Through meditation, all the cosmos open up. I mean, literally, all of creation opens up. But you're being still. That stillness is an infinite doorway to creation itself, to that which caused creation. That's what meditation will show you. It'll show you that which caused creation. See? That's what stillness will bring to you. What simplicity will bring to you is the beauty of creation. See? So, you're going to become aware of two grand events. One, that which caused creation, and the inherent beauty in creation. See? Be simple, be still. But this is a psychic discipline that must be cultivated. It's not going to just happen. You might stumble across it every now and then in life, like you see some beautiful event that makes you stop for a second and go, oh. But then in a few more moments, you'll start your creation process again, and you'll enter into the normal human calamity. You'll start to stumble through your own psyche, and the show's over. What made you stop? Because if you see some beautiful event, whether it's a beautiful child just born or a beautiful sunset, do you know what happens? Your breath stops for a moment. For a moment, there's a pause in your breath. Do you know when you practice deep meditation, your breath slows down, slows down, slows down? And there's a state in the deepest form of meditation called samadhi, where the breath stops completely. Completely. People say, well, how is that possible? Well, in that deep awareness, you've switched from sort of a metabolic maintenance of your physicality to sort of a cosmic maintenance. The cosmos itself, the energy of the cosmos itself, will sustain your existence. See? But it's because you've crossed the threshold. you've gone deep enough to cross a bridge. So a higher level of physics kicks in. Don't think that the physics we know today is the physics that we'll know 500 years from now, or that the sages knew 10,000 years ago, or even beyond that time. The great sages knew all sciences. What we're doing is, in a very infantile, elementary way, rediscovering. But it's not that it wasn't known in past time. It certainly was. They say that Jesus fed the multitude from a few baskets. So we think, oh, not possible. Well, not possible for you or I, but certainly possible for a master. So the physics he's aware of is definitely not the physics that we've yet come to. See? Or that this great master walked on the water. Well, it's definitely possible. It's just that he understood a higher physics. He applied a higher physics. You know, see the arrogance of man when we say it's not possible. Well, what's not possible in the kingdom of God's creation? What's not possible? I don't know what to say when people think it's not possible. When we realize the infinite, glorious creation created this, what's not possible? It's a question of the known and the unknown. See? So, as humans, we commonly live in the unknown. But because hidden within the human condition is the soul, which is a particle of the infinite, all things are knowable. Because we are inherently rooted in the infinite. So, we're the micro, slowly inching our way back to the macro. We're the limited, slowly inching our way back to the limitless. See? And it's the yoga sciences that give us the skill of self-realization, to realize our true potential beyond our own personal creation. See? We have our own personal creation, so we say, this is who I am. But when we say, this is who I am, truly, how examined is it? See, again, these are unexamined notions. See? Once there's a greater, deeper, profound examination, all of a sudden, you cannot enter the process of yoga and not to enter the process of profound discovery. There's all of these myriad of hidden abilities sitting dormant in the human condition that can be utilized, can be reawakened, can be energized, can be put forth. But it has to be examined, and the switch has to be turned on, you know, that it's possible. It's certainly possible. So, we learn to put our attitudes on a sort of a pause button. So really one of the experiments that we should do is to find something we consider ugly, you know, and to spend time with it. But not spend time with it in judgment. Just make your mind peaceful, simple. Just be present. See? Just simply be present, simply be still. It's because unfamiliarity. We're not familiar. And we haven't spent time with it. You know? If we spend time and we're simple, all of a sudden our creation of ugly goes down, goes down, goes down. So through the eyes of Buddha, through the eyes of Krishna, through the eyes of Jesus, where was the ugly? Where was the ugly? They saw God. They saw Dharma. They saw truth. You know? With all of these great souls, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Sri Krishna was supporting Arjuna. The opposing forces was Duryodhana. But at no time did Krishna condemn either side. He made them a proposition. He said, you can either have me as your charioteer, or you can have all of my armies. And you two choose. You two combatants choose what you prefer. Arjuna said, he's the embodiment of Dharma. He'll be my charioteer. Duryodhana was a materialist. Krishna's vast armies on my side? That's what he took. You know? But there was not an ounce of judgment on Sri Krishna's side, even though Duryodhana was vicious, cruel. Arjuna was noble. He was trying to protect the kingdom in nobility. But there was no judgment. See? In the case of Lord Buddha, his demise came through food that was not poisoned, like food sickness, food poisoning. And through his sensitive nature, he realized, this food is spoiled. It'll be the death of me. This mortal coil, not his spirit, his mortal coil. But he noticed, gee, this person has taken so much time to prepare this food. They've been so gracious, they're so poor, and they're still offering what they have. He consumed the food. There was no judgment on his part. He saw just the beauty of the nature of the man, even though he knew it would cause the end of this mortal coil. See? He had beauty and neutrality. Krishna had beauty and neutrality. In the case of Jesus' crucifixion, he prayed for the forgiveness of those who brought the suffering upon him. See? His eyes had only beauty, only love. You know? There was no condemnation. You did this, and you're wrong. You know? He saw the inherent beauty. He saw, of course, he's aware of the error, but he also, it's like the teardrop and the ocean. You know? He saw the ocean of beauty and the tiny drop of error. You know? And knowing that it'll all work out. See, so they have the eyes of beauty. They see it. See? And they see the transition of existence. That this changes to this, changes to this, changes to this. The cruel is not always going to be cruel. The cruel is there. The cruel is exercising that energy out of ignorance. But it's not a forever ignorance. And it can never be a forever ignorance. See? So, in our practices, we're trying to see through the eyes of a Jesus, through the eyes of a Saint Francis, through the eyes of a Buddha, through the eyes of a Krishna. That is our evolutionary arc. See? But we have to have a means of doing it. If we take all of our cues just from society, well, read the newspapers and see if that's really where you want to go. You know? Society is a massive hospital. You know, it's an insane asylum acting out. Sometimes the patients have good days, sometimes the patient has bad days. But if you read the papers, unfortunate. The science of yoga wants to bring us to our true, full natures. But the way we come to our true, full natures is by studying the saints, their psychology, their philosophy, and their methodology. So, why do you see all these, yogis and saints just quietly saying prayers, or quietly being still, or quietly being aware? See? This has to become our template. This has to become our model. We shouldn't think, oh, they're lovely eccentrics. They're lovely scientists. That's what they are. They're taking the time to develop their sensory mechanism to see what's really, really there. Not to assume what's there, not to project what's there, but to see what's there. To see what's there means you've got to be truly attentive and truly enhance whatever mechanisms you have. Your sense of sight, your sense of hearing, your sense of taste, your sense of touch, to truly accentuate them so that we can fully grasp what we're in the presence of. See? We don't. So if we see the spider, we make a judgment and we run away. But did we really examine what was before us? We didn't. We simply didn't. So we have this body of unexamined ignorance, see, that we added to, we created because we didn't use our senses to say, oh, when we look at the spider, what is the texture of its hair? See? What are the patterns that are there? What is its function in nature? Why does it exist? We didn't ask any questions. It was just a reaction. We didn't ask any questions. We didn't do any real analysis. So, with simplicity, you acquire far greater awareness. See? Does it have a scent? What does it feel like? Oh, sometimes we touch. Hey, it's smooth. It's sort of soft. It's sort of feathery. But we would have never thought about that before. We would have just been repulsed and off we go. See? It was unexamined. So even if that's just the one thing, well, that's sort of nice. I can like at least how it feels. As where before it was 100% yuck. Now it's okay. That's sort of nice. See? Little by little by little. And if you spend time with it, the ugly goes away because the lack of familiarity. See? We become familiar, so the ugly goes away. See? Then, so that's all on the external level of yoga practice. And then on a more subtle level, be simple, be still. So in the practice of meditation, we're teaching ourselves the habit of stillness and the stillness/silence. See? Because as human beings, we're all about creating. We're thinking, we're feeling, we're emoting. We're creating all the time. So that's okay, no problem with that. But every now and then, you should sort of hit the pause button and see what's on the other side of your creation. So if you're creating, what about the creation? See? We know what we're doing, but what about the other side? So we want to live in a balanced existence. So we take the time to be still. And then we first become very, very aware. Some people are coming to the door. Haricharan and his wife.
Really?
Yeah.
And the baby.
And
And
the
I
baby.
didn't know they were coming today.
Are there any pillows about?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's a chair up there. Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question while we're...
Yes, please. Hey Rama, hey Rama.
So a question around that is when you talk about the ugliness disappearing and the examples you gave, like the spider or nature, where I find when I spend more time with a certain type of ugliness that doesn't seem to, the ugliness doesn't disappear is when it's in other people's attitudes or behaviors. Like if someone's just a greedy person and is constantly acting out of greed. And then to continue to get closer to that actually brings up more, whether it's judgment or ugliness within me. How do you apply the same?
Yeah, it's a very good question, and in yoga you have to be ruthlessly practical, and you have to ask every question. That's why I always say ask 10,000 questions. Again, go to the premise of be simple. So, in simplicity, we're trying not to be reactionary. So we be simple, be still. Say, okay, there's an ugliness of behavior. And you gave the example of greed. So if we can be simple and be still, then we can just start to examine what is greed. Greed is a condition, a psychological condition of poverty, psychic poverty. See? So someone who's grabbing, clutching, is in a state of psychic poverty. See? Now, what caused that poverty? So you have to try to track it back. They had a perception, real or imagined, of loss or of lack. See? Now, the moment we can realize they have a perception of loss or lack, we can start understanding them as a human being. You know, we can start to, all of a sudden, a little bit of compassion comes up because we know that that person is suffering. If you're greedy, you're suffering. You know, if you're going to take more than your share, it shows that that person is again further out of tune with their own humanity, out of tune with compassion, out of tune with love. So if they're out of tune with all of those things, we can really feel sad for them. We can still have some compassion for them. They are really, really suffering. So the moment we realize that they're really, really suffering, we can have some compassion for them. And now that we have a sense of compassion for them, as opposed to just pure revulsion for their bad behavior, now we can say a prayer for them. Say, God, I don't know how this came about. I don't know what perception led them to have a sense of loss and lack, and that's blinding them from their own humanity. But please restore their humanity. Break this notion of lack. See, so we now can pray for them because we realize this person is sick. The beauty and the love of life that you're drinking in, they've somehow turned the spigot off. See? They're a desperate soul now. They have become out of attunement. A lack of attunement. See? That's unfortunate. So we have to develop some compassion by realizing their action is based in suffering. See? Yes, ma'am.
But how do you respond to them on a daily basis if that behavior is hurting things? How do you respond?
Yeah. Not all the time can you find an immediate change. But what we can do is we can fortify our own self. We can become less susceptible to negativity.
So we should try to stop if there is harm, or endure whatever they're doing because it's part of.
No, this is a no. Okay, you're asking a complex question that takes a complex answer. The first and most important thing is to acquire your own deep stability. Your own deep stability is engendered by learning deep spiritual practices, practice of meditation, practice of mantra, practice of prayer. So that is job one. Because if you don't have that, it's the unstable dealing with the unstable. So that's not a good combination. So if you're practicing real meditation, real prayer, real mantra, you actually build up a very strong vibrational force around you that people can say all kinds of things, do all kinds of things, and it doesn't get to you because you yourself are profoundly stable. You know. So if you spit on a saint, all they do is pray for you. But they pray for you without anxiety or anger. You know, they just see a patient that's acting out. They don't see bad person. See, they see suffering person acting out, acting badly. See? You become like a physician, and you don't take it personally. You know, it's not personal. This is someone's own personal disease functioning in the world. See, so job one is to acquire your own spiritual integrity, spiritual strength. You know, when I say spiritual strength, it's not like woo-woo. It's like it doesn't get to you. It doesn't get to you. See? You see it, but it doesn't have a personal effect on you. You know, it only engenders your own deep compassion. You know? So maybe you can't change the actions, but you can quietly do things. You can quietly engineer circumstances, or quietly create positive conversations, or if confrontation is necessary, can do it from a point of stability, and just say, you know, this is bad behavior. You know, sometimes evil must be confronted. You know, you can't always sidestep it. Sometimes it must be. Arjuna had to go to war with people who were best friends and cousins and relatives. He didn't want to, but it came to a point where evil must be confronted. You know, he did it with no negativity. He just said, this disease must stop. See? So, you know, a good surgeon doesn't have a personal anger against the disease. He just says this disease must stop for the welfare of all. You know, for the goodness of the society. This must stop. And that's it. You take care of it and it's over. See? You know, if he pulls out some cancer, that's it. It's over. It's over. You know, there's no bad. See? It's just this malignancy must be removed. It's over. See? But in confronting evil, you must have the strength. See? So, true prayer, true mantra practice, true meditation gives you those facilities to approach a malignant situation in a state of compassion and balance, psychic balance. If we're angry or agitated, is there psychic balance? No. So are we inherent? Can we slide into the malady? Yes. See? So we have to build up the strength to deal with the opposition. See? If we're forgetful of the inherent beauty of life, we're inherently unbalanced. We don't know the earth that we stand on. So we're always fearful. So by learning simplicity, and heightened awareness, all of a sudden life becomes more and more beautiful. Just the inherent nature of life becomes more beautiful. See? Because we're allowing ourselves to truly, truly, truly pay attention. We're not just living in the world of aberrant dreams, the dreams of my fellow human beings, and the fearful dreams, and our fearful dreams. See? They're living in their fearful dreams, where I'm living in my fearful dreams. Can we be possibly stable? Is there any stability there? I'm sorry, there's not. So we have to try to examine what the kingdom put here for us. See? Not examine all of our dreams based on what? See? But examine what's been put here presently for us to see. See? And base our experience on what the kingdom put for us present. See? As opposed to the dreams and the maladies of man's mind. See? Man's mind is not that connected to the kingdom because it's not paying attention. Can it be connected? Absolutely. Is it connected? Not so much. See? Where was Jesus' mind connected? Where was Buddha's mind connected? See? What did they put first? What are we putting first? See the difference? Why a Jesus is a Jesus and we're who we are? Or a Buddha is a Buddha and we are what we are? See? It's where they put their attention and what level or what proportion of their attention was where. See? So I'm asking each of us something very difficult. To slow down and to try to exercise our senses so that at least we know the ground we stand on. So that we actually understand the ground we stand on. Because if we can understand that, it'll change a whole bevy of how we perceive the world, how we experience the world, what we base our perceptions on. See? We're basing our perceptions on notions, not on insight. See? So my request is that we learn to base our awareness on insight and not notions. See? Notions is unexamined perspectives. Unexamined perspectives. You know, that we're acting as if they're fact. See? They're not fact. A notion is not a fact. It's not a fact at all. It's an unexamined something. So, because we have a body of senses, let's do let's utilize our inherent tools and see where we stand. See? And because we have a mind, through the process of meditation, that is another means of examination. So we use our senses to examine life, and then the super subtle, which happens in the psychic sphere, we have meditation, so that we can learn to be comfortably still. Not just still, comfortably still. So that we can allow all the natural psychic forces to arise and to bear witness to what's going on, and to bear witness to their quality and their reality. Are these feelings, all these thoughts, really real? Do they really last? What is their origin? See? And then over time, in the process of meditation, there's a re-identification process. In the beginning, we identify with our thoughts and emotions as this is who I am. That's all a big, big notion. To assume that your feelings and thoughts are who you are. This is truly a massive unexamined notion. If you sit quietly and you acquire a psychic neutrality, all of a sudden, over time, you realize, wait a minute, the body of my existence is in this quiet neutrality, and that these things are arising within that quiet neutrality. So who are you really? Are you the verb or the noun? See? The noun is that quiet, still awareness, the body of beingness. The verb is all your thoughts and feelings. It's what's arising. So who are you really? What is your real foundation? See? That which is constantly corruptible, your feelings and your thoughts, you are acting as if that's the body of who you are, as opposed to the stable silence. See? And you'll find that that stable silence actually has unbelievable qualities. See? In yoga they say Sat Chit Ananda. That body of silence, Sat, is truth. Chit, wisdom / awareness. Ananda, joy. That's the inherent nature of the human condition. But because we put all of our attention on thoughts and feelings and not on the inherent silence, the Sat Chit Ananda, the base, the root condition of what we are and who we are, is not examined. And we assume that the created thought and feeling is who we are. See? We put all of our attention on a notion that's not correct. We've only examined part of our existence. We're examined, and we put all of our faith in what we created as opposed to what we are inherently. See? So, to acquire balance, we have to find our inherent nature, not just our creation. We're thinking our creation is our nature. That's not correct. That's an unexamined notion. See? We have to learn to say, this is what I'm creating, so all these thoughts and feelings are rising, but who's experiencing the thoughts and who's experiencing the feelings? Who's experiencing that? See? Thoughts and feelings are just elements of creation. Who's experiencing it? That's what we have to do. So we have to learn to be able to lean back into ourselves, into the primordial experiencer. See? And then from that position, to get an awareness of the quality of these thoughts and experiences. Do they have some value? Do they have lack of value? Are they baseless? See? But we have to be able to lean back and sit and find our own inherent nature. See? There is an inherent nature. All the other stuff is stuff that you've created. And stuff based on misperceptions. Do you know how many gazillion fears are hidden in your psyche? And every one of those fears is based on a sense of an unexamined notion. An unexamined notion is the basis of a massive body of fears, small and large. Can you imagine if all of those fears were evaporated, removed, because of pure examination? The body of experience that you'd have then? That's why the fear and joy go together. Error. Freedom and joy go together. Freedom and joy go together. You can't ever separate them. So, by learning to develop a profound sense of simplicity and a profound sense of stillness, there's an inherent freedom and joy. See? This is the science of yoga. This is the practical science of yoga. And there's a million different exercises that we can do. But you should do it. You should work with what's most obvious first, what you're most familiar with first. So you go sit down in the park, and you just sit. I'm going to sit here for a half hour, and I'm going to gaze just in one direction, and I just want to see. I don't want to think. I just want to see. I just want to see. Be really simple. Just see. And then all of a sudden, you'll start to see. All the lenses that you put in front of your face will slowly start to fall down, and you'll just start to see. See? This is far more fundamental. This is what you have to move towards. Fundamental experiences. Not based on your creation, but based on just what's present. See? So, say, okay, each week I'm going to go to a park and I'm going to exercise a sense. You'll learn something, and you'll remove a whole lot of fear. You'll remove a whole lot of fear. So, between exercising simplicity and exercising stillness, be simple, be still, you're going to learn a whole lot. I used to carry, I buy these little black flat rocks, and I would always carry it in my pocket. These little round, little oblong rocks that are like small river rocks, and I'd keep them in my pocket all the time, just one. And every time I touch it, I'd say, "Be simple, be still," because it reminded me. Because the world wants to draw us out into complexity, more and more, this and that, That's just our own creation, our own anxiety to do, to create, to make. It's okay, but it's not balanced. It's okay to create. You can create as much as you want, no problem. But what about the other side of existence, the simplicity and the stillness? See? If you have both, no problem. If you have one, read the newspapers. See? If you're just exercising one part of your existence, look at the newspapers and see what it's done. It's not pretty. But if you can exercise, look at Gandhi. Can you imagine a more beautiful soul than a Gandhi? I'm using him as an example because he's a contemporary. But look what he did. Look at the hearts he changed. When Gandhi passed away, he had just like, you could put all of his property in one box. He had a Gita, he had a mala, he had some sandals, and he had some glasses. And a dhoti. That was the sum total of his possessions when he died. And this is a national leader. Sum total you could put in a tiny little box. But look at the beauty of his character. If you study Gandhi, it's a study in simplicity of him cutting back. What's essential? See? Or another contemporary, a Thich Nhat Hanh type fellow, or a Dalai Lama. They're not grasping at 10,000 things. They're looking at the fundamentals of life, a deep examination of what's fundamental, and then exercising those things. So we have to utilize these examples as a template. But if someone doesn't say, do this, examine it, do some experiments, society is not going to tell you to do the experiments. The society is based on its own madness. So it's only places like this where you say, take the time to do some experiments. Just smell. Spend 3 hours just being present with sense of smell. And then some people say, well, I can't smell. Well, why is that? Because you've taken all the psychic force away from it. You haven't fed the nerves to enhance that sensitivity. So why should it? It's like a dead battery. It's not going to perform. See? It's only when you charge the battery that you're going to get some performance out of it. So in the beginning, our eyes are not seeing. Low battery. Because we were just in our own head trip. We weren't hearing. We weren't tasting. If you look at many, I hate to say this way, but a lot of the Anglo diet, as opposed to Indian diet. You know, India is like a festival of food. Or look at the French, who are beautiful, or the Italians. What if you go to like the Midwest, meat and potatoes? You know, their sense of taste is unimaginably dull. Unimaginably dull. And this is no kind of, you know, putting down. But the psychic energy was never put there. So the sense of awareness of taste is very minimal. Very, very minimal. As if you go to France, you go to India, you have 10,000 flavors. You know, 10,000 flavors, 10,000 scents. You know, so the senses will be enhanced based on the level of energy you put towards it. You know, if you go to Iowa or Dakotas, you'll get one level of sense of taste, of palate. You go to France, you go to Italy, or you know, India, you'll have another level of awareness of the palate. See?
So the confusion I have then is when we engage the senses, doesn't that also engage our desire? Which then,
Oh,
like,
not
why
at all.
do the yogis say retreat from the senses or
Well, that's
control the senses?
That's not you're not understanding correctly at all.
Okay.
When they say senses in that regard that you're speaking, they're talking about unregulated passions. That's what they're talking about. They're saying that your senses should be regulated, meaning balanced. And it's like if your sense of taste, because we're talking about taste, is extreme and then highly influenced by unexamined notions, then this tastes terrible. See? Because it's not only the taste, but you're putting a notion on that taste, like the spider is ugly. See? So it's unregulated. See? It's not balanced and based on wisdom and insight. See? It's extreme and highly influenced by unexamined notions. See? So when they're talking, they're saying that you should bring a purity to experience and a regulation, so it's not passionately this or passionately that. They're saying see it as it is without superimposing your notions upon it. See, that's the regulation. It's the regulation of mind, so that you can experience something in purity as opposed to experiencing something with the imposition of a unexamined notion on it. See? So that's why in yoga training we have all these pranayama that we do, body exercise that we do, all these forms of purifications that we do. The hatha yoga and the fasting. All of these are purification, so that when you engage a sense, the sense is uncorrupted. See? It's not tainted with anything else. It'll just perform its function. See? So we try to bring our senses to a condition of purity. So if you do fasting and then eat an apple after fasting, that apple will taste completely different than before you fast. See? Because the senses have been purified. So your taste will be enhanced to what it really is. And if you've done some mind training, you won't have an apple like, I prefer this type of apple over that kind of apple. See? That's your superimposition upon this poor simple apple. You know, it was minding its own business, trying to be what it is. You know? See, you came at it with a judgment. This is not as good as the apple I had in France. That's, you know, that was your judgment, as opposed to sort of the simple New York apple, you know, that is flavorful as anything else. It's, you know, it's this kind of smile and that kind of smile. What's the problem? You know, you didn't see them both as smiles. You know, you said, oh, this one is better. Human judgment. Human judgment. You know, based on what? What? See? See, so that's the thing. We learn through the yogic practices to purify our senses, and then to let our senses rest on something. Rest on something. See? Just to be present with it. You know, I'm going to tell you the truth. There's many, 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 many beautiful experiences that happens when your senses are more purified and less judgmental. You know? What happens because you become simple? This is becoming a child of God. See? Not a man of his own making, but a child of God. See, there's a guilelessness. A child of God is guileless. That when you start to see things, start to experience things, not your intellect or your thought, but your inherent solar nature starts to become more present. See, the body of what you are, not the body of your own psychic creation. And your experiences of things become so different that what happens is sort of, you'll start to experience the grace of God flowing through you. You know? So, when Jesus touched an apple, it was a blessing. When he touched a tree, it was a blessing. When he touched a man, or a human being, or a woman, or an animal, it was a blessing. See? The inherent nature of God was flowing through him. Or Krishna, or Buddha, any of these Mahatmas, great, great souls. Their inherent nature was a loving divinity. And whatever they touched was blessed. Whatever they touched was blessed. The very earth they walked on is blessed. See? That's supposed to be our experience. See? But we got in our own way with our own creation. See? Our inherent nature, you'll find later on in your life, if you do these practices, that when you touch things, you'll inherently say a prayer. You won't even think to say a prayer. It'll come out of you. You won't think at all. But whatever the name of God that's fondest to you, it'll automatically come off your tongue. Even if sometimes you're walking down the street and you brush up like a plant, just by accident, you know, you'll say some praise of God. There's no thought involved at all. It'll just come out of you. It'll just come out of you. You'll greet the plant as another citizen of the kingdom, and you'll praise the glory of God in it. It'll become perfectly natural. See? You'll learn, not learn, you'll experience the nature of touching with grace. You'll touch things with the inherent grace of God. See? Now, isn't that a very different experience, you know, than our callous, you know, bulldozing through the world? It'll happen. And it'll happen because you became simple, you became still. See? Your whole relationship with the kingdom will change. See? So there's a lot there, but all of this is based on changing your culture, changing your psychic culture, and on what you invest your time in. See? We all can look at our clocks and say what we're investing our time in. See? And if we do that honest examination, we can very easily see why we're out of touch. You know? With the very thing that gives us life and substance, we're out of touch. You know? We're in touch with the theater of man, with the drama of man. Okay, so we take a good look at our lives and say, okay, If that's what we're involved in, I can understand why I got what I got. You know, we have a big masala. It means a big mix. Not all good, not all bad. It's just a big mix. But that's not our evolution. That's not. This is part of our journey, but this is not our destination. You know, because if you opened up the psyche of a Gandhi, what was there? Or Saint Francis, what was there? Or a Jesus, what was there? See? The experiences that those souls have is the body of our future. Is the body of our future experience. They didn't get there just by saying, okay, this is McDonald's and it'll be done in 5 minutes. They got through a process, you know, of examining sanctity, the sanctity inherent in life, getting the habits of examining it, walking with it, living with it, doing practices that enhance our awareness. And then that's what they are. They just peeled away the common creation of man to the essential creation of God. See? But there's a process to it. If we eat only what's in the newspapers, what is our awareness? As opposed to taking the time to see that's the question. What is God doing? That's what we want to ask ourselves. What's God doing? We know what we're doing. We know what man is doing. Read the newspapers. You'll know what man is up to. But what is God doing? See? So you have to purified, highly attentive senses to see what God is doing right in front of your face. See? And then profound stillness. That profound stillness is a type of hearing, a type of learning to witness. First you'll witness the human drama in your psyche. But as you calm down and get deeper, you'll start to see and become aware of what I call the garments of God, the forces of God. You'll simply become, they're present. It's just that we're dull. We're just way, way, way dull. So in meditation, you'll start to realize all of the divine forces, natural forces that are just actively present. But we were just simply distracted. We're simply distracted, so we weren't aware of them. Just like we're not aware of most senses. See? And then, bit by bit, the kingdom, which was once a pinprick, will become grander and grander and grander. And it just happens because of awareness and psychic stillness. See? Awareness, psychic stillness. See? So, was Jesus afraid of crucifixion? No. He accepted it. You know, was Lord Buddha aware of losing the body because of eating tainted food? No. Simply accepted it. See?
It seems like that's the main thing to remember, though, because if you're invested in things that are fearful, it seems like humans are thinking about survival, staying here in this
Exactly.
world. So fears come from trying to stay alive here now.
That's
whether
right.
you're wearing a seatbelt or crossing with a crosswalk. So
That's
those fears and investing in those fears and worrying about those fears as opposed to investing in the beauty of the moment is what leads you to sort of tip into that fearful mode. But that's based on trying to survive.
That's correct.
As a human. And so how do you let that off? Because this isn't the destination. But then you should be willing to die at any moment at any time and be fine with it. So then why wear a seatbelt in the first place?
Well, that's a good question, and it's a very practical question. And the saints have addressed that question. The human condition should persist for its natural duration. It should persist for a reason, not just to persist. It should persist for a reason. The nature of divinity is inherent in each element. You, myself, all the members of the room, all the elements of the room. The reason that we should seek to persist for as long as possible within the confines of this natural vehicle is so that we can have the time to do the experiments with the nature of divinity in this world. See? So we have this treasure box of sanctity hidden in us. And we have all of these facilities that we've been given. Heaven wants us to persist. It gives us the desire to persist. That desire to persist, the reason for that desire to persist is so that the elements of the treasure box can be exercised in the world. See? There's an inherent reason to persist. We don't just persist like a clod of wood there, dead of consciousness. No, you can't really say that. They're not dead. It's just limited consciousness. But every birth that we take is an opportunity to manifest the solar reality. That's why we persist. See, when this vehicle can no longer serve that purpose, it'll go. It'll go by accident, or go by old age, go by disease. But when it can no longer serve as a vehicle to exercise these experiments, there's no longer a need for the body. So off it goes. Now, because, again, our lives are profoundly unexamined, we think death is death. Again, that's a big notion. Death is death. So we consider our existence based on the body. What about if we thought about our existence based on consciousness? See? Can you burn your consciousness? Can you drown your consciousness? Can you smother your consciousness? So why are we assuming that consciousness is extinguished just because the body drops away? Why? Where's the proof? Where's the proof? There's no proof. Now, if you did these profound practices of meditation, all of a sudden you become aware that the vitality of consciousness is far grander than we ever perceived, more indestructible than we ever perceived. So again, it's only through a tool like meditation do we realize that what we essentially are is an indestructible element, clothed in a corpuscle element. See? So the thing is that because if you pinch us, we cry, and we put so much of our attention there that we think that's what we are. It's because we put 100% of our attention in the clay pot and not in what allowed the clay pot to exist. See? That's why meditation is so necessary. Because it breaks the delusion that this is it. That this clay pot is it. See? So, over time, if you have the opportunity to live with saints and masters, they will completely destroy your notion of what is reality, of what is real. You will see and experience things that we quote call miracles. Your whole notion of what's possible will be completely exploded. These souls live off the charts. They're not bound by common rules of nature. And it becomes quite natural. Quite natural. My master is gone now. He's left the body. But the things that you would never imagine are possible were daily activities. Just stuff that you just got. First it blew your mind, and then you just got used to it. Just stuff that you think is completely impossible. It's just you got used to it because it was just normal. See? So your sense, our fears are based on our notions, and our notions are unexamined. So by doing all these sacred practices, you're giving yourself opportunity for profound examination of what is here, which is what we don't do. You know, I mean, science is a good application. They're trying, but heaven has even given us better facilities. You know, we're creating machines based on our ideas, but heaven gave us a whole body of subtle capacity that's completely within us, that infinitely trump what we can create by our minds. See, there's a divine mechanism that we can use as opposed to a mechanism of man. So again, it comes down to profound examination. And that will change your notions of life and death and corruptibility and all this kind of stuff. See? It's doable. But you've got to pay the price of admission. That's the deal. You know, you've got to put the energy in to be able to see what's going on. And we're distracted. That's the human problem of profound distraction. See? Why do you think all these guys go off to ashrams and to mountains and to caves? To cut away the distractions. You know, your mother's not calling you. You know? Are you coming over to dinner? You know? You know? Your friends aren't banging on the door saying, hey, there's a new club opened up. You know? I mean, it's all natural, but we're distracted. There's nothing wrong with it. Mom can call. Your crew can show up at the door. Nothing matter with it. But it does not allow us the time of profound insight. See? And that's, in order for us to know what's really, really, really going on, you have to acquire profound insight. And an easy way is to first experiment with your senses. See? That's an easy way in. You know, because it's an easy way to develop concentration. See? To develop concentration. Prolonged concentration becomes meditation. See? Prolonged concentration becomes meditation. See? So it's the way in. Any thoughts, questions, curiosities? Yes, ma'am. Sylvia.
Yeah, we were just in terms of concentration on something. I think you had given me a book on Taoist art, and I think when I was reading that, it just made sense that the people would spend. They really thought about drawing in a different way than we would today. Yeah. That they would actually spend all day doing brush strokes of bamboo, like they were just over and over and over again, and the repetition of that. It doesn't make sense in the context we would today because we don't practice those anymore. But it was all about an attunement to the nature. And to the pattern things. And I see that's the same things that you're talking about.
Yeah, you have to get beyond the conceptual mind. By doing it over and over, that's because what you're doing is sanding away the conceptual mind so that you can come to the point of the intuitive mind. See? Conceptual mind is all the filters we've built in between, you know, what we're doing, to interpret what we're doing. There are 10,000 filters that we've put up. As opposed to the intuitive mind, it's just what's present. What's there? Before I thought of anything, before I superimposed anything, what was there? See? And that's all it's trying to get you to, is to what is present before you thought about anything, before you felt about anything, what was present. That sort of initial experience.
And it takes a while to get there.
Quite a while. Because we're thinking, feeling things, and so we've got this dearth in between us and the object of perception. See? There's a lot of stuff in between. And there's various ways of just trying to move it aside. And there's many, many ways. Many, many ways to develop the intuitive mind. See? But the intuitive mind is more your true perception before you created 10,000 things. See? So the Zen people talk about it, the Taoist people talk about it. The yogis talk about it. See? But you get what you invest in. If you invest in silence, you'll acquire the treasures of silence. You know, if you invest in the drama of man, you acquire the experiences of man. You get what you invest in. See? So that's the thing. We just have to be very judicious. What do you want out of life? If you want all that theater of life, no problem. It's okay. But if you're a little bit wary and say there's got to be more, well, then the inquiry starts. See? No problem. You do what you're ready for. There's no judgment. You do what you're ready for. You know, and at the end of the day, you have infinite time to work out this journey. You know, Heaven didn't put a timeline on it. You know, there's no cap. So, you'll get it done. The question is how much sorrow did you have to go through?
Yeah.
You know, it's your choice. It's ultimately our choice. You know, so something that we should all think about is what our spiritual legacy will be, and we often don't think about that at all. You know, when I say spiritual, I'm not talking big, fancy, sophisticated word. When I say spiritual, what I simply mean is the practice of goodness. I mean goodness in purity, not corrupt, just in purity, the practice of goodness. So, at the end of your day, what was left in your wake, you know, when you've kicked the bucket, and the life energy that you left behind, what did you do? How many smiles did you leave behind? How much upliftment did you leave behind? How many gardens did you leave behind? That's what I'm asking, see? As opposed to how much disaster, sorrow, corruption, distortion did you leave behind? So we have to think about that, you know? Our spiritual legacy. You know? What was the percentage of joy or destruction that we left behind us? So we should never forget. As yogis, we should never forget that. You know? That way, when we're like, I can go this way or we can go that way, you know, you always try to head north, you know. I could really clobber this guy and be justified in it, or I can keep my mouth shut and say a prayer, you know. Sometimes the people deserve to get clobbered, but keep our mouth shut and say a prayer. God, help this fool. And that let me fall into that pit also. That's hard to do. So, this is the things we learn. And this is why, you have this type of a gathering. You have this type of a gathering to support you in acquiring these habits. Because the truth is, if you practice true yoga, you're going to have precious little support. Your mother, your brother, your sister, your friend, forget about it. They don't understand. You understand when you're ready to understand. You're in when you're ready to be here. That's it. Your best friend won't understand. Oh, he's nasal gazing again. He's looking at his navel or something, whatever. However they say it. That's fine, But by having a group of people who are looking into these things and then doing some experiments, then you have a body of support. And in the beginning, that's useful. Later on, it's not necessary at all. But in the beginning, it's definitely it's nice to have a body of friends who are thinking about the same things that you're thinking about and trying to do the same experiments and deep inquiry.